The red sky above Zenthis 9 burned like fire. A dry wind swept across the desert ground, kicking up black sand and sharp dust. Every soldier was in place. Over 5,000 troops, standing in full armor, surrounded a small rocky hill in the center of the wasteland. Their weapons were loaded, their orders were clear: one target, one human. Capture alive if possible, kill if needed. Commander Tarvek stood on a hover platform above his army. His scales glittered under the sun, and his sharp teeth showed as he gave the signal. His voice echoed through every soldier's helmet. Move in. The human has nowhere to run. The troops began to close the circle. Slow, careful, no mistakes. Each step was calculated. Each movement was silent, but something was wrong. The man they had come to trap. He wasn't running, he wasn't hiding, he wasn't even armed. He was just standing there, on top of the hill, wearing nothing but torn clothes and a calm face. He had no armor, no weapons, no fear. Tarvek frowned. Why is he not resisting? A scout drone zoomed in, sending a close-up image to every officer. The man's face was unreadable. His eyes looked far away, like he wasn't even focused on the army surrounding him. His hands were behind his back. He stood as if he were waiting. For them. General Krint of the Black Talon Legion landed beside Tarvek. He's mocking us, Krint said. We could erase him in one blast. No, Tarvek replied. High Command wants him alive. They want to know what he knows. They say he walked through our defense walls like they weren't there, Krint growled. It's just a human. Tarvek didn't answer. Deep inside, even he didn't believe that anymore. The circle grew tighter. Now the human was only 30 meters away from the first line of soldiers. But still, he did not move. Sergeant Vrook stepped forward. Human, he shouted. You are surrounded. Drop to your knees. Surrender now. The human lifted his eyes and looked at Vrook. His gaze was calm, steady, almost gentle. But something in his eyes made Vrook take one step back without knowing why. Then, the human finally spoke. I didn't come here to fight, he said softly. But you did. His voice was clear. No comms, no tech. But every soldier heard it. Somehow his words echoed through their helmets, through the wind, even into the command ships above. Tarvek's eyes narrowed. How is he broadcasting? Tech officers checked their systems. Sir, no signal is being used, no frequency, no source detected. That's impossible, Tarvek growled, but the voice continued. You brought armies, machines, and fire, the human said. Yet you never asked the right question. Krint shouted, Enough games! Take him! The front soldiers raised their rifles. 100 lasers pointed at the human's chest. He didn't move. The wind stopped. The silence was heavy. It pressed on their ears like weight. Then the human said something that made every heartbeat freeze. You already lost the moment you saw me. The sky suddenly dimmed. Clouds that weren't there before began to swirl. The heat vanished. The sand below their feet started to crack, not from weapons but from something else, something colder. The tech team screamed through the comms. Sir, our systems are crashing. Power dropping in the walkers. Something's draining us, Tarvek shouted. What's happening? No one had answers. The rifles pointed at the human began to shake, not from the wind, but from the soldiers' hands. Fear. Cold fear. The kind they had never felt before. Sergeant Vrook tried to pull the trigger. Click. His weapon jammed. Another soldier's gun powered down, then another. One by one, the weapons died in their hands. Panic began to spread. Still, the human did not move. He looked around at the army that had come to take him and spoke again. This is not about me. It's about what follows me. Tarvek clenched his jaw. Fire everything, now. But nothing fired, not a single laser, not a single cannon. Ships above went dark. The power grid collapsed. And then came the sound. It wasn't loud. It wasn't sharp. It was more like a hum, deep, low, like something ancient waking up. The sand at the man's feet split apart. Out of the ground came black roots, metallic vines that glowed with blue light. They curled around him gently, like they were greeting an old friend. The troop stepped back in terror. "What is that?" Krint shouted. The human finally moved. He stepped forward once, only once, and with that single step, the ground shook. Somewhere, deep in space at a hidden observatory, a signal officer stared at her screen in horror. "Sir, we just lost full connection with the Zenthis army. Entire grid blackout, no life signs detected." Her commander turned pale. "Send the warning," he said. "Send it to everyone. He's active again." Back on Zenthis 9, the human spoke for the last time that day. "You call me human," he said. "But you don't understand what humans truly are. You never did." He turned his back to the frozen army. His figure faded into the dust. Not walking, not running, just vanishing. And when he disappeared, the systems came back online. Every soldier was standing in place, alive, but none could move. They were paralyzed, not by force but by fear. Their minds couldn't process what had just happened. Commander Tarvek finally whispered into his comm, "Retreat." General Krint stared at the empty hill. "We brought an army," he said, his voice shaking, "and we never even touched him." That night, across hundreds of alien worlds, a single phrase began to spread. No one knew who started it. No one knew how it was being shared, but it echoed through the stars like a whisper. He spoke 7 words, and the galaxy stopped breathing. Across the stars, silence spread like a wave. Zenthis 9 had gone dark. 5,000 soldiers, dozens of warships, and 2 powerful generals gone quiet in 1 hour. No alarms, no battles, no explosions. Only one thing had left that place: a voice. The voice of one human. On a command ship orbiting Veltrax Prime, Admiral Noro paced back and forth. His thick fingers gripped a glass screen that kept flashing one line of text. Signal origin, unknown. Source, untraceable. Words, 7. 7 words, words that were not sent through any channel. Yet every leader, soldier, and citizen across the Galactic Union had heard them in their minds. "You already lost the moment you saw me." They didn't come through speakers or devices. They came directly into the brain, clear, slow, heavy. Noro looked at his team. "This is not human tech." His science officer nodded. No frequencies were used, no waves, no particles, no machines. The voice came inside us. Another officer whispered, "Is it psychic?" "No," said the Admiral. "It's worse." On planet Rao, the High Council of the Varnak species met in secret. They had received the same message, but they also saw something else. Their main sky monitor showed a strange image, something no one else reported. A face, the same human's face, eyes closed, calm, a gentle smile, not threatening, not angry, just present. Elder Raylan shook as he stood. "I saw that face during the collapse of the Dark Belt. That was over 100 years ago. I was a child. But I remember it clearly. He hasn't aged." The council fell into a heavy silence. Another elder spoke. "He is not human." On Earth, in a hidden base beneath the Siberian ice, a small team of scientists stared at a glowing console. A single file had appeared in their private archive, one no one had accessed for decades. File name, Echo Einwaun the Watcher. Inside was footage, a black and white video, grainy, flickering. It showed a battlefield on Mars from over 200 years ago. Humans were losing. Alien soldiers were everywhere. Then someone walked onto the screen, a man, calm, barefoot, covered in dust, same face, same eyes, same expression. The footage ended with one frame zoomed in on his lips. A voice was added through subtitles. "You already lost the moment you saw me." Back in space, Admiral Noro called an emergency galaxy-wide meeting. Only top leaders from every species were invited. The screen split into different feeds. Warlords, queens, high scientists, and military strategists appeared in perfect lines. "We are not here to fight each other," Noro said. "We're here because of one man. A human." He paused, then added, "Or something that only looks like one." Everyone had the same question. "Who is he?" A small voice answered. It came from the lower right corner. A small alien, thin and covered in silver scales. "Spoke with fear. He appeared to us on Vorta 6 5 years ago. Said nothing. Just watched. After he left, our weapons failed for a whole year." Another voice joined in. "We saw him on Dreenock Station last cycle. He walked through our locked vaults. We thought it was a dream." Another one said, "My father met him during the Battle of Flame Tide. Everyone died, except him. He stood beside my father, then vanished." One by one, stories came in. From every corner of the galaxy. From every species. From every rank. This wasn't the first time he appeared, but it was the first time. He spoke. On a quiet moon called Alnira, a communication officer named Nira watched her screen flash violently. A signal was being received, but not by antenna or network. It was appearing directly on her monitor, like it was being written by a ghost. Her hands trembled as she read the words, "I was never lost. You just stopped looking." Then came a wave of images, thousands of faces, different planets, different timelines, but all showing him, same man, same face, never aging. She hit the emergency archive. The computer locked everything. She whispered, "He's always been here." Meanwhile, on the warship Drantos, Captain Voran demanded answers. Why are we afraid of a single human? What is this madness? His second-in-command looked pale. "Sir, we received something else." Voran frowned. "What?" She turned the monitor. It showed coordinates, a location deep inside the uncharted void. No planet, no station, nothing was ever there. The message had only one line. "Meet me, back." At Admiral Noro's base, the science division worked night and day. They played the message again and again. "You already lost the moment you saw me." They tried to measure it. Waveforms, sound levels, energy patterns. But the data did not make sense. It didn't match any known language, but everyone heard it in their native tongue. It didn't follow any known vibration, yet it echoed inside them. One scientist cried out, "This isn't just a message, it's a command," and we all obeyed it. "What command?" Noro asked. The scientist stared at him. "To stop." Across the galaxy, wars paused, invasions halted. Leaders stayed silent. Something inside them told them to wait, to listen. One sentence had stopped fleets, frozen war councils, and made death machines go still. No one told them to stand down, but they all did. In a dark corner of the universe, on a ship that had no name, an old alien warrior named Helvac watched a fire burn in a metal bowl. He had seen the man once, many years ago during a massacre. He had asked the man then, "What are you?" And the man had replied, "I am the voice before the storm." Now, Helvac sat in silence and whispered to the flames, "The voice has returned." Back on Earth, the United Human Nations Council gathered. They had seen the message too. They were the only species not surprised. Chairwoman Liu stood before the table and spoke softly. "Project Echo was never shut down. We just stopped watching." Someone asked, "You mean he's one of ours?" "No," she said. "He was never ours. He just chose to wear our face." On every screen across every world, a countdown appeared. No one knew where it came from. No one could delete it. The numbers were simple. 72 hours. Until what? No answer. But one thing was clear. The man had spoken once, and now the galaxy was waiting, not for war, but for his next words. General Craxus was not afraid of humans. He had crushed 3 human rebellions, burned their outposts, watched them cry. To him, humans were soft, weak, creatures who talked too much and died too fast. So when he heard about one human freezing, a whole army on Zenthis 9, he laughed. It was fear, he said, smashing his fist on the command table. Soldiers are like sheep. They panic, but I don't panic. I lead, I kill. The room was silent. His officers didn't respond. They had watched the footage. They had heard the message. And deep inside, none of them wanted to follow the general this time. But they obeyed anyway. The ship Ravager's Claw tore through warp space. Destination, the uncharted void. Coordinates, the exact place where the human had said, "Meet me." The general didn't care about warnings. He didn't care that other fleets had gone quiet. He wanted to see the human himself, to prove that fear could be broken. The moment the ship arrived at the coordinates, everything changed. There was no planet, no station, no beacon, nothing but black space darker than any night. Yet, something was there. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't alive. But it watched. The bridge lights dimmed. The crew looked out the main screen and saw him, the human, just floating in space. No suit, no armor, just standing in the vacuum, calm as a star. He should be dead, the medical officer whispered. No one survives open space. Craxus stepped forward. Open comms. I want to speak to him. The officers hesitated. I said open comms. They obeyed. A soft chime beeped, signaling connection. Human, Craxus said, grinning. You scare children and fools, but I am not either. The man did not move. I am General Craxus, breaker of moons. I killed more than 10,000 humans with my hands, and I do not fear you. Still, the human said nothing. Craxus's eye twitched. You are not a god. You are not death. You are just one man. And if you think I will kneel like those cowards... Suddenly the screen changed. The human was no longer outside. He was inside the bridge. Gasps filled the room. No one saw a door open. No one heard a sound. But there he was, standing next to the control panel, staring at them. Unarmed. Calm. Exactly like on Zenthis 9. One of the guards fired in panic. The plasma bolt passed straight through the man, like he wasn't real. Then, something worse happened. The gun melted, not exploded, not burned. Melted into black liquid, dripping down the soldier's fingers. Everyone stepped back. Craxus growled and walked toward the human. You think you can scare me with tricks? The man finally blinked. Slowly, then spoke. Do you feel the heat rising? Everyone froze. The room grew warmer, not fire, not radiation, just pressure, invisible, heavy, spreading like it came from the walls themselves. Officers began sweating. Eyes widened. One fell to his knees. Another dropped his tablet and backed into a corner, shaking. Only Craxus stood firm. He stared into the human's eyes. You think pressure will break me? The man said nothing. Craxus took a step closer. You froze armies with your voice, not this time. Then Craxus did something no one expected. He lifted his hand and slapped the human across the face, or tried to. The moment his hand touched the man's cheek, the ship went silent. Every engine stopped. Every screen went dark. Gravity failed the way. Crew began floating, but the human didn't move. He remained standing on the ground, untouched by zero gravity. Then he whispered, You chose the one door that never opens. The bridge began to change. The walls melted into black mirrors. The stars outside shifted into red spirals. And then came the noise. It wasn't a sound. It was everything sounding at once: voices, screams, thunder, wind, metal grinding, hearts breaking, all layered together. Everyone dropped, gripping their heads, crying, bleeding from ears, except Kraxus. He clenched his fists, gritted his teeth. "I will not kneel." The human turned toward him, and for the first time, his calm face turned serious. "You think bravery is silence," he said. "You think strength is resistance, but this is not about you, General." "What is it about?" Kraxus growled. The man stepped forward. "It's about what comes after me." Suddenly, the mirrors shattered. The noise stopped. The crew lay still. On the floor, unconscious or sobbing, only Kraxus stood, though barely. Sweat dripped from his chin. Blood leaked from his nose. He looked into the man's eyes one last time. "I don't fear you." The man smiled, softly. "I believe you." Then he leaned forward and whispered into Kraxus's ear. Just 3 words. The general's eyes widened. He dropped to his knees, not from pain, from understanding. The human vanished. The lights returned. The ship powered up again. Officers began to wake up. Kraxus remained kneeling, eyes distant, lips shaking. His second-in-command slowly stepped forward. "General, what did he say to you?" Kraxus didn't answer. Then finally he whispered, "We never should have gone to Earth." Across the galaxy, the countdown continued. But the message had changed this time. It didn't come from the human. It came from Kraxus. A signal broadcast from his ship to every system. "Stop. Don't follow. Don't chase. Don't speak. Don't resist. We are already inside the last hour of peace." The signal was marked. High risk, broken mind, unstable data. But no one laughed. No one ignored it, because something worse had happened. The strongest general in the galaxy had blinked. No one expected the answer to come from a child, not after fleets were silenced, not after General Kraxus knelt, not after the galaxy held its breath and watched the countdown tick, but in a small village on the edge of Sector 9. On a quiet, frozen moon named Halvan, a little girl woke up screaming. She screamed just one word: "He's not alone." Her name was Aylin, only 6 years old. No family, just caretakers. She had never traveled off-world, never saw a war, never heard of Zenthis 9. But her voice shook the air like thunder. The caretakers ran to her room, thinking it was a nightmare. But the moment they opened the door, they felt it too. A wave. Not fire, not sound, not pressure, just a presence. Something was in the room, not seen, not heard, but watching. Aylin pointed to the window. There was nothing there, just a snowy field and an old tree. She whispered, "He's here." But not that him. The other one. The village called the local peacekeepers. They called the sector watchers. Soon, the signal reached higher, and when Earth's hidden command base got the message, they didn't ignore it. They sent Dr. Mara Lin, a neural empathy expert. She had studied signals from deep space, decoded ancient ruins, and survived 2 psychic blasts from unknown tech. But when she stood in front of the little girl, she felt something she never had before. Aylin looked at her and said softly, "He showed me the end." Dr. Lin knelt down. "The end of what, sweet one?" "The end of everything." In a secured dome, Aylin sat across from 12 leaders, scientists, generals, and alien elders. She was given warm food, gentle words, and a soft chair. She ignored all of it. She stared at the center of the table, silent. Then she said, "You're all looking at the wrong man." A gasp filled the room. One alien warlord stood. "You mean he's not the one?" She shook her head. "He's the start, not the end." Dr. Lin asked, "Then who is the end?" The child smiled. "I don't know her name, but she's coming, and she's angry." Back on Veltrax Prime, Admiral Noro received the report. He slammed his fist on the wall. "Another one?" The officers nodded. "This time it's not a threat," said the communication chief. "It's a warning from a 6-year-old. Noro looked at the countdown. Time was running out, but now it wasn't just about him. Another was coming. A second force, maybe worse. Meanwhile, across 3 different systems, strange things began to happen. In Sector Delore, an entire mining ship vanished, but the lights kept shining in the shape of a handprint. In Glaxis, a newborn baby spoke in a clear voice and said, "I remember the stars falling." And in the ruins of Zenthis 9, satellites picked up movement. The bodies of soldiers were still lying in place, but now they were pointing all toward one spot on the ground. A burned symbol, a circle with a single vertical line, a symbol no one recognized, except Aylin. When shown the image, she whispered, "That's her mark." Dr. Lin asked gently, "Can you tell us what happens?" Aylin closed her eyes. "I don't see it. I remember it. How can you remember the future?" The little girl's voice changed, deeper, older. She showed it to me. Everyone in the room felt a wave of cold rush over their bodies. She showed me a sky full of black suns, oceans boiling, ships turning to dust, not because she hated us, but because we forgot. Dr. Lin leaned forward. "Forgot what?" Aylin looked up. "To listen." On a forgotten research moon, an old AI activated itself. It had been silent for 300 years. Its first words shocked its caretakers. The second echo begins. They searched its memory files. All empty, except one file hidden deep inside, protected by dozens of firewalls. Name, Her Coming. Inside, a single clip. A woman's voice, soft but strong. "The first was your chance to understand. The second will be your lesson," the say. Galaxy started to panic. If the first human could silence armies, what could the second do? Was she human too, or something else? Reports came in from all directions. A planet's core reversed its spin. An ancient machine began singing in a forgotten language, and in the deepest black hole near the border of known space, a heartbeat was detected, one that didn't stop, didn't fade, just beat, steady, getting louder. Back in the dome, Aylin started to cry. "She's waking up." Dr. Lin held her hand. "Where is she?" Aylin pointed up, not to the ceiling but higher, not here, not in space. "She's in between." "In between what?" Aylin whispered. "Where time has no voice, where screams become law, where stars go to hide." The elders turned pale. Even the machine stuttered. She continued. She watched us ignore the first. She gave us silence. But now, she'll speak. Across Earth's defense grid, satellites turned toward a single point in deep space. They didn't know why. They just moved, on their own. When asked why, the AIs answered the same way. Because she is watching. The countdown ticked lower. In the final hours of calm, leaders tried everything. They sent peace offers, they recalled ships, they shut down weapons. But nothing changed. Then a final message arrived, one that didn't come from a person, a ship, or a system. It arrived in dreams. Everyone, human or alien, dreamed the same thing, a woman walking across a dark ocean. Her footsteps made stars appear behind her. Her eyes were closed, but her mouth was open, whispering one line again and again. "He warned you. I remember." And on the quiet moon of Halvin, the child Aylin whispered the final truth. We weren't surrounded by one human. She turned to Dr. Lin. We were surrounded by 2. The countdown reached 1. Across the galaxy, everyone held their breath. From high command posts to small colony farms, no one spoke. No one blinked. And then it began. But it wasn't an explosion, not a beam, not a blast. It was a sound, a low, deep note, like a hum from the bones of the universe. It didn't come through speakers. It didn't echo in the air. It came from inside every living being, and as it rang, something inside everyone broke. Admiral Varyn fell from his chair. "I can hear her," he whispered, eyes wide, staring at nothing. His officers rushed to help, but they were shaking too. Their weapons fell from numb fingers. Their screens flickered with symbols no one had ever programmed. In dozens of languages, across thousands of screens, the same message appeared. He asked for silence. You filled it with lies. On the ruined battlefield of Zenthis 9, the ground began to shift, not from movement, but from memory. The ashes of the dead rose, not as bodies, not as ghosts, but as echoes, shadows of what was. Soldiers long gone stood tall again, made of dust and light, their mouths wide open in screams no one could hear, and behind them stood a woman. Not real, not physical, just a silhouette. With eyes like stars, and a voice still not speaking. On Earth, panic spread fast. People screamed. Children cried. Machines stopped. Nothing could play music. Every song, every speaker, every voice was overwritten by the same endless hum. Governments collapsed into emergency mode, but no enemy came. No ship arrived. Only the hum. And it kept getting louder, not to the ears, to the soul. Aylin, the girl who had warned them, stood in a quiet room with Dr. Lin. The girl was calm now, eyes closed, hands folded. Dr. Lin whispered, "What is she doing?" Aylin replied, "She's remembering." Remembering. What? The child opened her eyes. Everything we said, after the silence. In Sector 12, 4 warlords who had laughed at the first human now begged their ships to run. But their engines refused. They tried to launch weapons. Nothing fired. A single voice echoed inside their ships, whispering one sentence. You heard his warning. You laughed. And somewhere far from all systems, the first human stood alone on an asteroid that wasn't mapped, wasn't named. He wasn't breathing. He didn't need to. He watched the stars, eyes soft, silent, until her voice spoke to him. Only him. They didn't listen. He whispered, "I know. Should I begin?" He paused, then nodded once and said, "It's time." At that moment, the hum stopped. Silence returned, and for 5 seconds the galaxy felt safe again. Then came the scream. It wasn't loud. It wasn't angry. It was true. A scream filled with history, sorrow, pain, and a promise. It echoed from black holes, sun cores, dead planets, and empty fields. Every species fell to their knees, and then she appeared, not on one world, not in one place, everywhere, at once, in reflections, in shadows, in the corner of the eye. She was tall, wrapped in something darker than space. Her face was hidden behind a veil made of whispering voices. And she walked, step by step, everywhere at once. Ships lost power, suns flickered, moons cracked. But she didn't destroy. She reminded. A pilot on a patrol ship looked up at his cracked mirror and saw her watching. He screamed, not in fear, but because she showed him what he forgot. The promises, the treaties, the cries of children ignored, the warnings buried under pride. She didn't kill him. He removed his helmet himself. Back on Halvan, Aylin said, "She isn't rage, she's truth." Dr. Lin held the girl tightly. "How do we stop her?" "You don't," Aylin said. "You." "Listen," Dr. Lin whispered. "But to what?" "To the silence between words. That's where her message is hidden." In a grand meeting of the last remaining leaders, a plan was made, a final effort, a last call for peace. They built a beacon, not a weapon, not a shield, a message, one word. Sorry. They broadcast it through every frequency, every language, every ancient channel, and waited. She stopped walking. The hum returned, softer now. Aylin smiled. She heard. Dr. Lin whispered, "Will she forgive?" The girl shook her head. She doesn't forgive. She decides. In a dark corner of the galaxy, a single planet vanished. No sound, no trace. No one knew its name, except one, the first human. He closed his eyes. One lie too many. The scream never returned, but neither did light. Stars stayed dim, ships stayed grounded. Time itself slowed near her presence, and then she spoke. Just once. To everyone. This was the second silence. There will not be a third. The galaxy didn't know where she came from, or what she truly was. They only knew this. The woman was not a weapon. She was the result of one, and she had waited. Far longer than anyone guessed. Deep under Earth's oldest continent, hidden far from satellites, there was a room sealed behind layers of forgotten tech. Inside that room stood a chair, empty. Above it floated a single blinking screen. For 237 years it had said the same thing. Status, sleep mode, code, ARIA. Until now. Now it said, status, active. Primary task, remember. Secondary task, speak. The room shook, the chair moved. The woman, Arya, opened her eyes. She didn't scream. She didn't speak. She simply stood, and across space, galaxies trembled, not from her power, but from her knowing. In the Council of 9 Worlds, panic returned. She's awake. How? She was buried. She's not just human, one alien said, voice shaking. She's consequence. Long ago, during Earth's last global war, there had been a project. Not to win, not to destroy, but to preserve something no one understood. A signal, buried in Earth's deep crust, not made by humans, older than language. Scientists studied it, feared it, worshipped it, and one day a girl was born near its pulse. The signal changed her. She wasn't smarter, wasn't stronger, but she saw things before they happened. After they ended, during they existed. Earth's top minds tried to study her, but the girl spoke very little. Only this. I must sleep until they forget. They asked. Forget what? She smiled. That words have weight. They named her Arya. They built her. A chamber. She entered without fear, sat in the chair and closed her eyes, and waited. Back to the present, Arya stood on the burning soil of what used to be a moon. Her feet didn't touch the ground. The wind didn't touch her. Time bent around her like water, and she listened to screams, to lies, to every leader who begged after destruction, and then, finally, to the truth. From a distant station, Admiral Noro saw her through a live feed. She's here, he whispered. The camera shook, not from impact, from her gaze. She turned and looked through the screen, into the eyes of those watching, into their shame. Aylin, the girl, sat quietly with Dr. Lin. She's not angry anymore, the girl said softly. Dr. Lin asked, then what is she? Aylin smiled sadly, disappointed. Arya walked through the air of forgotten planets. No ship, no armor, no tools, only memory, and every world she passed, she left the same thing. Behind, a stone. Small, plain, each with a word carved on it in a language no one remembered, but everyone understood. One said, trust. Another said, cost. One said, too late. Then she reached the edge of the galaxy, where the stars thinned, where even gravity gave up. She looked at the darkness ahead and said, no further. A signal shot back across the stars, all frequencies, all minds. She spoke just 3 words. Line is drawn. The leaders met again. Fear gripped every room. She'll destroy us. No, she hasn't yet. What does she want? No one had an answer until the screen turned black. Then white letters appeared, one line at a time. You surrounded one of your own. You laughed when he warned. You thought silence meant weakness. You forgot what I was. I was listening. Ships tried to reach her. They exploded before arriving. A fleet of 10,000 was deployed. She never looked at them. They turned and ran before getting close. Even the ones who didn't believe in gods began to pray. But then something strange happened. She paused in one spot and looked down at a tiny shuttle, old, broken, harmless. Inside was an old man. His name, Samuel Rain, a retired mechanic, blind. He had no weapons, no ship crew, only a recorder. He had come to speak, not fight. Hello, Samuel said. His voice shook. You probably don't remember me. Arya didn't answer. I helped build your chair, he said. Long ago. I didn't know what you were. None of us did. Silence. But I remember the day you smiled. I never forgot. Still, no answer, so he added, I just came to say, we're sorry. We were scared of what we didn't understand. Arya turned, not with hate, but with recognition. And Samuel whispered, thank you for waiting. She walked to the shuttle and placed a single hand on its hull. Then for the first time she spoke, not to the galaxy, to him. You remembered. That's enough. Then she vanished. In that moment, everywhere, light returned. Weapons turned to dust, wounded healed. Even Aelin smiled again. She forgave him, she whispered. So maybe us too. But in deep space, behind a shattered moon, one last warning appeared, carved into space itself, glowing across the stars. Third, silence would be final. The galaxy had been warned twice. First, when they mocked the lone human surrounded by armies. Second, when the woman, Arya, awoke and showed them what silence truly meant. Now, a third silence was near, and this one would not pass. It would end. It began quietly. A star vanished, not exploded, not swallowed, just gone. Then another, and another. People blamed solar storms, black holes, enemy tricks. But Aelin knew better. So did the first human, and so did Arya. She had returned to her chair, not to rest, but to listen. Her eyes stayed closed, her body still, but her voice now echoed in every mind, on every planet, in every language. This is not punishment. This is correction. In council chambers, panic spread again. We must act. We must stop her. No, one alien leader whispered. We must change. They turned to the feed from Earth, to the man who started it all. The first human. His name was still unknown to many, but everyone now remembered his words the day he was surrounded. You're loud because you're afraid. I'm silent because I'm not. That man now sat in a garden on a quiet space station. Plants grew around him. He didn't speak, didn't move, but he felt the galaxy leaning toward silence again, and he knew the end was coming, unless Arya spoke again, only one sentence. 3 worlds must answer. That was all. No one knew which 3, but everyone waited, and soon they were chosen. The first was a trade world, Zenthos Prime, a place of wealth, business, and pride. They had laughed the hardest when the human first spoke. Now they received a signal. Their skies turned silver. Their towers began to hum. Arya's voice came, soft but heavy. Do you still laugh? Zenthos's leaders begged, cried, promised change. She listened, watched, then the towers fell, not from attack, from shame. The people fell to their knees. And when they rose, they had no more lies. Xanthos survived, but would never lie again. The second was a military moon, Jura 7, known for its brutal prisons and endless wars. They answered with threats, sent fleets, missiles, lasers. None reached her. She stood above their moon in silence. One word appeared in their sky. Again? The fleets turned to ash. The moon cracked, half the surface gone in seconds. No sound, no screams, just dust. Jura 7 became a warning. Now only one world remained. Every planet wondered, is it us? On Earth, the leaders wept. It's us. We created her. But Aylin shook her head. No, she said. It's not about who started it, Dr. Lin asked. Then what? It's about who forgot. That world was Veltar, a peaceful planet, known for its art, music, stories. They believed they were innocent. But Arya knew. Veltar had changed the old warnings, rewrote history, removed the truth of what happened on Earth, made the human look like a villain, and... Now the truth returned. Arya appeared above Veltar. She said only this. You erased silence. Now face its echo. The skies filled with images, memories of the first human's pain, his warning, their mockery. The people of Velthar watched in horror. Their children cried, their elders fell silent. No one moved. Then, one woman stepped forward, and I, old historian, she bowed deeply and said aloud, we were wrong. The story is yours. Take it back. And in that moment, the stars above Velthar began to shine again. The sky cleared. No attack came, only a voice. Third silence. Delayed. Across the galaxy, people sighed with relief. But they also understood now. This wasn't about destruction, it was about remembrance, about not letting silence be filled with lies again. The first human smiled quietly in his garden. Aylin whispered to Dr. Lin, she's giving them one last chance. But for what? The girl looked out at the stars. To listen. In deep space, a beacon lit up, not made by hands. It floated alone. On it, one sentence glowed. When truth is buried, silence digs it up. And just below it, the final message, one silence remains. The galaxy held its breath. 3 worlds had been judged. One was forgiven. One was cracked. One bowed and lived. Now only one silence remained, and it would not be delayed again. Across billions of stars, everything grew still. No wars, no movement. Even time itself seemed to wait. Children didn't cry. Birds didn't sing. Engines refused to start, because the universe itself was listening for the last voice. The first human stood up from his garden. He had waited long enough. He walked, without speaking, past the flowers, past the walls of the station, and stepped into a small, round chamber. No buttons, no tech, just a single seat and a glowing orb. Aylin stood in front of the screen, watching him go. Dr. Lin asked, "Where's he going?" She looked at the stars. "To end it," she said, "one way or the other." In the stars above Earth, Arya appeared again, but something was different. Her light had dimmed, her steps were slower. The galaxies knew what it meant. She had given them time, given them warnings, given them truth. Now, she was nearly done. Her voice came, soft, steady, final. The first silence was his. The second was mine. The third must be yours. Across the galaxy, leaders turned to one another. What do we say? How do we speak the truth? But the truth could not be voted, could not be planned. It had to come from within, and it had to come fast. In a forgotten corner of the galaxy, a group of children gathered near a broken transmitter. They didn't know much, only that long ago a human stood alone and said nothing. So now they tried to do the same, They stood silently, held hands, and let the silence speak for them. Arya felt it. She paused, her eyes closed, and a small smile came to her lips. Then, on Earth, the orb in the chamber turned gold. The first human stepped forward. He placed his hand on it, and finally, he spoke again. His voice echoed everywhere. This isn't about power. It's not about fear. It's about listening. He took a breath, then added, "When you surrounded me, I stayed quiet, because I wanted to see who you were." The galaxy watched, silent. Now, you've seen her. You've heard me. But have you heard yourselves? The orb glowed brighter, and from every world small voices rose. Not leaders, not warriors, but normal beings. One by one, they whispered, "We're sorry. We forgot. We remember now. We hear you. We'll be better. No more lies. No more noise. We will protect silence." Across the stars, Arya opened her hands, and the stars lit again. Planets healed, oceans calmed, the skies turned blue, and Arya began to fade. Dr. Lin saw her image one last time and whispered, "Where is she going?" Aelin smiled. "She's not needed anymore." On the final feed, the galaxy watched as Arya walked back to her chair, the same chair where she had slept for centuries. She sat down and closed her eyes. Above her, a single word appeared in the sky. "Heard." The first human smiled. He turned and walked away. No medals, no speeches, just peace and far across the stars. The galaxy was quiet, not out of fear, but out of respect. The silence had returned, and this time, it was theirs. But just before the stars dimmed, one last message appeared on every screen. The first silence tested strength, the second tested truth, the third tested heart. Remember all three, or face a silence that never ends.